Sometimes I wake up already tired of trying to be someone better. Better at speaking, better at working, better at being the kind of person people want to keep. I used to believe that if I could fix enough of myself, maybe I would finally be worthy of love. So I kept polishing, adjusting, pretending, until I couldn't recognize who I was anymore. The truth is, perfection is heavy. It makes you afraid of being seen, because one small flaw can ruin the whole mask. You start to hide your mess, your sadness, your slow days. I don't think we were meant to live that way. Love isn't a prize for getting everything right. It's what stays when everything falls apart and someone still looks at you and says, "It's okay, you're still enough." So if today you feel small, unimportant, or not ready for love, remember this: you don't need to earn it. You already deserve it just by being here. There was a time when I tried to prove my worth in every small thing. The way I talked, how fast I replied to messages, how useful I could be to others. I thought love meant effort, that I had to constantly show that I was good enough to stay. But love built on fear never feels safe. It feels like holding your breath, afraid that if you exhale, everything will disappear. One day, I got tired of pretending, tired of trying to fix things that weren't broken. I sat in silence and asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What if I stopped trying so hard? The thought scared me, because who would I be without the effort, without the image, without the chase for approval? But then, slowly, I began to notice small moments of peace. When I said no without guilt, when I laughed too loud and didn't apologize, when I let someone see the messy parts of me, and they stayed. Maybe love doesn't begin when we become perfect. Maybe it begins when we stop pretending we already are. I used to think being loved meant doing everything right, saying the right words, staying calm, staying useful. But love built on performance never lasts. The moment you fail or say something clumsy, it feels like the ground opens beneath you. You start rehearsing every version of yourself, hoping one of them will finally be enough. It took me years to realize that real love has nothing to do with perfection. The people who truly care about you are not counting your mistakes. They're looking for your presence, the quiet truth of who you are when you stop trying. And that version of you, the one that sighs at the end of the day and lets the guard down, that's the one that deserves to be loved the most. So breathe. You don't have to prove anything today. You don't have to fix yourself to earn a place in someone's heart. Just show up as you are, and that will be enough. There are days when you wake up already fighting with yourself. You scroll through your phone, see people smiling, achieving, living the kind of life you thought you should already have. And somewhere inside, a small voice whispers, "You're falling behind." So you push harder, fill every hour, try to fix everything that looks imperfect. But no matter how much you do, it never feels enough. That voice doesn't want to destroy you. It just learned the wrong language of love. It thinks being perfect is how you stay safe, how you keep people close. But love was never supposed to be earned that way. It's not a prize for discipline or self-control. It's what happens when someone sees you on your worst day and doesn't run. You don't have to hurry to become better. You don't have to catch up to anyone. Right here, in the middle of your unfinished story, you are still worthy of love. There are moments when you stop chasing and suddenly realize how quiet it's been inside you. You start to see how much time you've spent trying to be liked, editing your words, adjusting your tone, shaping yourself into something smoother. But being loved for who you aren't is a slow kind of loneliness. It's like being in a crowded room and still feeling invisible. Real connection doesn't need polish. It needs presence. People don't remember your perfect answers. They remember how they felt standing next to you. Sometimes, the most beautiful thing you can do is to stop performing and simply exist. Let someone see the real you, not the edited version, not the safe one. The you who gets awkward, who sometimes says too much, who laughs too loud. That's the person love can actually find. There are people who think love means never showing the cracks. They hide the tiredness behind small talk, the sadness behind jokes, and the fear behind a smile. I used to do that too, afraid that if anyone saw the real me, they'd walk away. But love doesn't live in perfection. It lives in truth. The more I hid, the lonelier I felt. Because even when people said they cared, deep down, I knew they didn't really know me. It's strange. We spend so much time trying to be loved that we forget to be known. You don't need to clean yourself up to be worthy of connection. You don't have to shrink the parts that feel too much or too different. The right people won't ask you to dim your light. They'll sit with you in it. Even when it flickers, there's a kind of peace that comes when you finally stop editing yourself, when you speak without rehearsing, when you laugh without worrying if it's too loud, when you say what you mean, even if your voice shakes. At first, it feels risky, like you're stepping out without armor. But that's where freedom lives. You realize that people who truly care don't need the perfect version of you. They just need the honest one. And even if that honesty makes some people leave, it also makes space for the ones who were meant to stay. Love doesn't ask you to earn your place. It asks you to show up imperfect and whole at the same time. Because maybe being loved isn't about changing who you are. It's about being seen exactly as you are and knowing that's enough. There's a moment when you realize you've spent years trying to earn what was never supposed to be earned. Love was meant to be shared, not proven, but we've been taught to chase it, to dress for it, to edit ourselves until we fit someone else's idea of enough. And in doing that, we forget what real love even feels like. Real love doesn't ask you to compete or perform. It doesn't disappear the moment you falter. It's quiet. It shows up in the small things. A friend who listens without trying to fix you. A stranger who smiles because they recognize the same tiredness in your eyes. Those are reminders that love was never about perfection. You don't need to fight for it. You don't need to earn it by being better. You just need to stop running from the parts of you that already deserve it. Sometimes love shows up the moment you stop searching for it. It finds you when you're doing something simple. Washing dishes, walking home, breathing after a long day. It's not dramatic, not loud, not a movie scene. It's quiet recognition. The world still holds space for you, even when you're not shining. There was a day I sat alone in a cafe. No phone, no distractions. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to look busy. I just watched the light move across the table and felt something shift inside. Love doesn't always arrive as someone else's voice or hand. Sometimes it's the soft voice inside you that says, "You're doing your best." And maybe that's where healing really begins. When you finally believe that voice. It takes time to believe that being enough isn't something you have to work for. At first, your mind will fight it. It will whisper that you should be doing more, achieving more, becoming more. But healing isn't a performance. It's a slow return to yourself. Some days, you'll feel confident, and others, you'll question everything. That's okay. Progress isn't a straight line. It's a quiet rhythm of losing and finding yourself again. You are still worthy in both moments, the strong one and the uncertain one. The truth is, you can't hate yourself into a version that feels loved. You can only learn to be gentle with the parts you once judged. Start small. Speak kindly to the mirror. Rest without guilt. Forgive the version of you that didn't know better. That's how you begin to love yourself. Not through perfection, but through patience. There's a quiet kind of love that doesn't demand anything from you. It doesn't ask you to be impressive or extraordinary. It just lets you exist. Messy, tired, human. You start to feel it in small ways. When you talk slower, when you let silence stay, when you stop rushing to fix what's not broken. Perfection was never the goal. It was just a shield you learned to carry. Because the world can be cruel to softness. But the truth is, your softness is not the problem. It's your strength, the part that still feels, still hopes, still wants to try again, even after being hurt. You don't need to change who you are to be loved. You just need to show up, the honest, imperfect version of you. Because real love isn't impressed by the mask. It's moved by the person beneath it. Sometimes love finds you in the moments you least expect. When you've stopped trying, when you're too tired to pretend. It comes quietly, without conditions. Not as applause for who you've become, but as acceptance for who you've always been. You start to notice it in small gestures. A text that says, "Thinking of you." A friend who doesn't need you to talk. Someone who simply sits beside you and lets you breathe. Maybe we were never meant to chase love like a finish line. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply learning what it means to be seen, without trying to be perfect first. There's a tenderness in learning to stay with yourself when the noise fades, when the achievements are over, when no one is watching. For so long, I thought love meant being chosen by someone else. But maybe the real love story begins the day you choose yourself, again and again, even when it's hard. It doesn't happen overnight. Some days, you'll still wish to be someone else. Some days, you'll forget that softness isn't weakness. But each time you return to yourself, even a little, you grow a bit stronger in the quietest way. You'll start to see that love isn't a goal waiting at the end of your healing. It's the way you speak to yourself while you heal. It's the kindness you give to the version of you that's still learning. Healing isn't a straight line. There are days when you feel light, and others when the old weight returns without warning. You'll think you've moved on, and then a memory will find you, soft but sharp, reminding you how human you still are. That's not failure. That's life asking you to keep practicing love, even when it's hard. When you start treating your mistakes with gentleness instead of anger, something shifts. You stop measuring your worth in progress and start finding it in presence. You realize you don't need to be fixed, just understood. There's power in sitting with what hurts without trying to make it disappear. Because sometimes healing isn't about feeling better right away. It's about learning to stay with yourself through the ache until the ache begins to soften on its own. There will be moments when you slip back into old patterns, chasing validation, overthinking every word, waiting for someone to make you feel safe again. Don't hate yourself for that. It's just your heart remembering what used to feel like love, even if it never really was. Each time you notice yourself reaching outward, pause. Ask gently, what am I actually needing right now? Most of the time, the answer is simple: rest, warmth, reassurance. Things that no one else can truly give you until you start offering them to yourself. Learning to love yourself isn't a single decision. It's 1,000 quiet moments of choosing not to abandon who you are. You'll get it wrong. You'll forget, and that's okay. Every time you return, it still counts. There's something sacred about coming home to yourself after years of running. At first, it feels unfamiliar, too quiet, too honest. You don't know what to do with the stillness, with the parts of you that never got a chance to speak. But slowly, you start to listen. You hear the part of you that only wanted to be enough. You hear the child inside who tried so hard to please everyone. You start realizing they both just wanted the same thing, to feel safe being themselves. That's what love really is. Not fireworks or perfect timing, but safety. The kind that lets you breathe without pretending. The kind that lets you rest without guilt. The kind that whispers, you can stop trying now. You're already home, and maybe that's where the search ends. Not in someone else's arms, but in your own quiet acceptance. The world teaches us to chase milestones, success, love, approval, as proof that we matter. But what if your worth was never something to achieve, just something to remember? Every time you slow down, every time you breathe without rushing, you're remembering it. You're saying to yourself, I am enough, even here, even now. You don't have to earn your softness. You don't have to justify your quiet. The people meant for you will find beauty in the pauses, not just the progress. And when the noise of comparison gets too loud, return to that still place inside you. The one that doesn't care who's ahead or behind. The one that knows love isn't a race and healing isn't a competition. That place, that quiet knowing, is where real peace begins. There's a kind of love that doesn't rush you. It doesn't ask for your best version or your brightest smile. It just waits, patient, gentle, quiet, until you're ready to meet yourself again. That's the love you've been searching for. Not someone else's approval, but your own acceptance. You'll start to see it in simple moments. When you stop apologizing for taking up space. When you rest without guilt. When you say, I'm tired, instead of pretending you're fine. That's love too. Not the kind that sparkles, but the kind that stays. Maybe being loved has never been about finding the right person. Maybe it's about finally learning to stop running from the one person who never left, you. There's beauty in realizing that love doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it's quiet, almost invisible, like breathing easier in your own skin. It's in the small peace that comes when you stop apologizing for existing. When you stop explaining why you are the way you are. When you let yourself be loved without needing to prove that you deserve it. It takes time to unlearn the noise that says you have to earn everything. But one day, you wake up and notice how much lighter your heart feels. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you finally stopped fighting yourself. That's what healing really is. Not fixing, not reaching, not achieving, just remembering that you were never broken to begin with. Maybe love has always been simpler than we made it. It's not in grand gestures or perfect timing. It's in the quiet choice to stay kind to yourself, even when no one is watching. You start to see that love isn't something that finds you once. It's something you practice every day. You practice it when you stop comparing, when you forgive yourself for needing rest, when you choose peace instead of proving, when you say, "This version of me is enough for today." The more you live that way, the more you notice that life softens around you. The world doesn't seem as sharp. People start to feel less like judges and more like mirrors, showing you what you already are: human, imperfect, and still worthy. That's what being loved really means. You don't have to perform it. You just have to allow it. There will still be days when doubt returns, when that old voice whispers that you're too much or not enough. It might sound convincing, like it's telling you the truth, but that voice is just fear. A leftover echo from the times you thought love had to be earned. When it comes, don't fight it. Just notice it, breathe, and remind yourself that you've outgrown it. You've learned how to stay even when things feel uncertain. You've learned that being loved isn't about being flawless. It's about being real enough to be felt. Perfection used to be your shield, but now it's okay to put it down, because the right people don't need your shine. They just need your honesty, your warmth, your presence, and that's something you already have. Love doesn't disappear when you fall apart. The people who truly care don't walk away when you're quiet or lost. They sit with you, even when there's nothing to say. That's how you know it's real. It doesn't demand that you always be okay. And when there's no one around, love can still be found in the way you treat yourself, in the way you wrap a blanket around your shoulders, or let yourself cry without hiding it. Those moments matter more than you think. They're proof that you're still choosing to stay. With yourself, for yourself. You don't need to fix the silence. You don't need to fill the gaps with noise or validation. Love can exist in the pause, in the breath, in the simple act of staying present. And in that stillness, you'll find the peace you've been chasing. There's something powerful about realizing that love doesn't need to be loud to be true. It's not always a spark. Sometimes it's a slow burn, the kind that stays warm long after the world grows cold. You start to understand that love is less about intensity and more about consistency. The quiet choice to keep showing up. Even when it's hard, even when you don't have all the answers, you can love yourself that way too. By showing up for the parts of you that still doubt, that still ache, that still wonder if you'll ever get it right. You don't have to rush your healing. It's not something to finish. It's something to live through gently. Love will keep meeting you there. In the breath, in the effort, in the simple truth that you're still trying. and that's more than enough. There will come a day when you look back and realize how far you've come without even noticing. You'll see the quiet strength that carried you through, the moments you could have given up but didn't, the days you thought you were standing still when, in truth, you were healing. Growth rarely looks like transformation. Most of the time, it looks like survival, breathing through another morning, choosing calm over chaos, letting time do its work while you keep showing up. You might not see it now, but the gentleness you're learning will change everything. It will shape the way you speak, the way you hold yourself, the way you love, because love that grows from truth, from patience, from honesty, is the kind that never leaves. One day, you'll stop measuring your worth by how much you achieve or how much someone else approves. You'll realize that being loved was never supposed to be conditional. It's not about what you can offer. It's about who you are when there's nothing left to prove. You'll wake up and notice the small things that used to slip by. The way the sunlight hits your wall, the sound of your own breathing, the quiet peace of not needing to be anyone else. Those moments are proof that you've already made it somewhere. Not ahead of anyone, but closer to yourself. And maybe that's all love ever wanted for you, to bring you home, to remind you that you were always worthy, even before you tried so hard to be. You'll start to see that love doesn't erase the hard days. It just changes how you hold them. You stop asking, "Why am I still struggling?" and start asking, "Can I be kind to myself while I struggle?" That small shift changes everything, because being loved isn't about never hurting again. It's about feeling safe enough to admit when you do. It's the freedom to fall apart without the fear of being left behind. You might still stumble, you might still forget, but each time you choose gentleness over judgment, you're rewriting what love means for you. And one day, you'll realize that you've become the very thing you were searching for, a soft place to land. That's when love stops being something you chase and becomes something you live. There's no final version of you waiting somewhere ahead. No perfect self you have to become before you're allowed to rest. The truth is, you are already complete, even in your uncertainty, even in your becoming. The idea that you must fix yourself before you're worthy was never real. It came from fear, from the world's noise, from people who couldn't see that imperfection is what makes us human. You don't need to have everything figured out to be lovable. You just need to keep showing up, curious, honest, alive. Love doesn't need you to be certain. It only asks that you stay open, open to trying again, open to forgiving yourself, open to believing that even here, especially here, you are enough. There will always be someone who seems happier, more confident, more put together. But comparison is a thief that steals the beauty of your own pace. You are not behind. You're just moving through a different season. Some grow through chaos, others through quiet, and both are still growth. It's easy to forget that the small moments count too. The morning you got out of bed, even when it felt impossible. The night you forgave yourself instead of replaying old mistakes. Those are the unseen victories that healing is made of. You don't need to prove your progress for it to be real. You just need to live it, softly, consistently, without apology. Because even on the days you feel lost, you're still moving toward something gentler. Sometimes, love is simply choosing to stay gentle with yourself when things don't go as planned. You no longer demand perfection from your days. You start accepting what they give. Some mornings offer clarity, others only confusion. Both are still part of your becoming. You learn that love doesn't have to look like constant happiness. It can also look like quiet endurance, like showing up even when you feel uncertain. The more you practice it, the more you realize love was never meant to fix you. It was meant to hold you while you learn to stand on your own. So be patient with this version of you, the one still learning, still growing, still trying. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Maybe this is what real love feels like. Not fireworks, not perfection, but peace. The kind that lets you breathe without proving anything. The kind that stays when everything else feels uncertain. You start noticing how soft life becomes when you stop trying to control it. How much lighter you feel when you stop editing yourself to fit in. You don't have to be extraordinary to deserve gentle things. You don't have to earn rest or kindness or love. Everything that's meant for you will meet you as you are. Not when you're better, not when you're fixed, but when you finally stop running from the truth of who you are. You've spent enough time trying to become worthy. Now it's time to remember that you always were. There's a quiet kind of courage in learning to love the life you already have. Not the one you're chasing, not the one that looks perfect online. The one that's here, messy and unfinished. You start to see the beauty in small things again. The morning light through the curtains, the sound of your own laughter, the calm that follows a deep breath. You realize that maybe love was never missing. It was just waiting for you to slow down enough to notice it. And in that noticing, everything begins to soften. The pressure fades, the noise quiets, and what remains is simple. You are here. You are enough. You are loved. You don't have to earn it. You never did. You just had to stop running long enough to feel it. Love is not a reward for effort. It's not something you finally reach after doing everything right. It's something that lives quietly inside you, waiting to be noticed. You start to feel it when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to prove, when you begin to treat yourself with the same patience you've always given to others. You realize that love was never missing, only buried under noise and expectations. And as you clear the space within, it rises again, soft, familiar, yours. Maybe this is what it means to be whole. Not flawless, not complete, but honest. To stand where you are, open-hearted, and say, I'm still learning, but I'm here. That's love, and it's enough. When you stop trying to be perfect, life begins to breathe again. You notice things you used to miss. The way laughter fills a room, the calm in a slow morning, the freedom of not needing to impress anyone. You begin to understand that peace isn't found in control, but in acceptance. Some days will still be heavy, and that's okay. You don't need to rush them away. You can sit with the sadness without making it your home. You can hold it gently and let it pass through you like weather. The more you practice this, the more you realize that love and peace aren't distant goals. They're daily choices, small, quiet acts of coming back to yourself. You don't need to be anyone else to deserve them. You just need to stay. there's a kind of grace in realizing you don't need to have all the answers. You can let life unfold without forcing it into shape. You can hold uncertainty without fear. You can trust that even when you don't see it, something inside you is still growing. Love doesn't demand that you always understand. It just asks that you stay open. Open to trying again after failure. Open to softening instead of shutting down. Open to believing that every version of you, even the messy ones, are worthy of care. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're becoming. And the love you've been searching for has been walking beside you this whole time. Patient, quiet, waiting for you to notice. One day, you'll look back and realize this was the part of your life where everything changed. Quietly, without applause. Not because something big happened, but because you finally stopped fighting yourself. You stopped chasing love like it was something outside of you. You started to build it from within, one gentle act at a time. Maybe that's what perfection really meant all along. Not flawless, but whole. Not getting everything right, but showing up even when you don't. You'll learn that love isn't a finish line. It's a daily return back to yourself, back to the truth that you were always worthy, even when you forgot. And from that place, love will stop feeling like something you earn. It will start feeling like something you are. You'll start to see how love quietly reshapes the way you move through the world. You'll speak softer, listen longer, and stop needing to win every moment. You'll find peace, not in control, but in trust. Trust that you're allowed to be learning, allowed to be unfinished. The people who truly see you won't ask for your perfection. They'll ask for your truth. They'll stay for your honesty, your warmth, your humanness, and slowly, you'll learn to stay for yourself in the same way. You'll stop rushing to be fixed and start appreciating the beauty of being in progress. You'll stop searching for proof that you're loved and start noticing how it's already here, in every breath you take without fear, because being loved was never about becoming perfect. It was about becoming real. There's a point when you finally understand that loving yourself doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you grow differently. You stop building from fear and start building from peace. You make choices that don't look perfect to others, but feel right to you. You begin to protect your time, your boundaries, your energy, not because you're cold, but because you've learned your worth. The love you now carry doesn't need to be loud or proven. It lives quietly in the way you care for yourself, in how you forgive faster, rest deeper, speak softer. It's no longer about being enough for someone else. It's about finally being enough for you. And maybe that's what real perfection is. Not being flawless, but being free. There will come a moment when all of this begins to make sense. The trying, the falling, the endless cycle of breaking and rebuilding. You'll realize that every version of you was doing the best they could with what they knew. Even the one who stayed too long, who apologized too much, who didn't know how to ask for love properly. That version deserves compassion too. Healing isn't about erasing who you were. It's about holding that person close and saying, "Thank you for surviving," because every piece of you, even the ones you once called mistakes, brought you here. And here, you are no longer chasing. You are arriving. You are finally learning what it means to love without needing to earn it. That's where freedom begins. There's a peace that comes when you stop chasing what you already are. For so long, you believed love was something to earn, a prize for getting life right. But now, you see it's been here the whole time, waiting for you to notice. It's in the quiet, in the breath, in the simple act of staying. You don't have to be perfect to deserve rest. You don't have to be strong to deserve love. You just have to be present with your flaws, your softness, your truth. That's all love ever wanted from you. Not your effort, not your performance, your presence. And in that stillness, something opens. You realize you don't need to reach for love anymore because you've already become it. You'll notice that this is what peace actually feels like. Not a constant happiness, but a steady breath. You stop rushing toward the next thing because you finally trust the place you're in. You understand that love isn't a promise of no pain. It's the strength to stay open even after being hurt. You begin to thank your past selves, every one of them. The ones who fought too hard, the ones who settled, the ones who survived. They were all trying to lead you here, to this quiet understanding. You were never unworthy, just unready to see your own worth. Now you see it, and it changes the way you move. Slower, softer, with a kind of confidence that doesn't need to prove itself anymore. Because you finally know you don't have to be perfect to be loved. When you finally let that truth sink in, that love was never meant to be earned, something inside you unclenches. The constant need to prove, to chase, to perfect begins to fade. You start living slower, breathing easier, and treating yourself with the same tenderness you once reserved for others. The world will still try to convince you that love has conditions, that you must shine, succeed, or please to deserve it. But you'll know better now. You'll know that love isn't a transaction. It's a presence. It's what stays when everything else falls away. And as you move through your days, you'll carry that knowing quietly, a reminder that you never had to be perfect to be loved. You only had to be here, human and whole, exactly as you are. Healing Radio, a place where you're allowed to pause and listen to yourself.